The narrative momentum accelerates as the consequences of Barbara's desperate decision begin to unfold, ushering the audience into one of the episode's most comically charged and thematically rich sequences. Miss Loring, the well-meaning but spectacularly misguided school counselor, enters the story like a force of earnest misunderstanding, transforming Barbara's borrowed poetry into a psychoanalytic goldmine of supposed teenage angst and maternal resentment. This section of the script exemplifies the comedic brilliance of One Day at a Time in the 1970s, where good intentions collide with generational gaps and the era's emerging fascination with psychological self-examination. The writers craft a masterful satire on overzealous counseling practices while maintaining deep affection for the characters caught in the whirlwind of miscommunication. Barbara is summoned to Miss Loring's office, a moment that immediately shifts the tone from private domestic anxiety to public exposure. The counselor, portrayed through the transcript with a blend of professional concern and eccentric enthusiasm, has been alerted by the poetry teacher Mr. Haskell. She sits Barbara down and reveals that the poems have worried both her and the teacher. What follows is a tour de force of dramatic irony, Miss Loring interpreting the dark, angsty verses that Julie wrote during a past conflict with Anne, as authentic expressions of Barbara's inner turmoil, launches into an enthusiastic celebration of Barbara's supposed genius. A sensitive, gifted lyric poet, an artist, a genius, she exclaims, clasping Barbara's hand in awe. The humor arises from the vast chasm between Miss Loring's romanticized reading and the mundane reality of a tired teenager seeking an easy grade. In 1970s America, the rise of guidance counseling in schools reflected broader cultural shifts toward mental health awareness influenced by the human potential movement and post-Vietnam introspection. Yet the episode gently mocks how such well-intentioned professionals could sometimes project complex adult interpretations onto ordinary adolescent scribbles. Scene by scene, the exchange builds layers of comedic escalation. Barbara's initial panic gives way to bewildered acceptance as she realizes the depth of the misunderstanding. When Miss Loring probes the poem Mother's Day, asking what was raging in the burning cauldron of your being, Barbara stammers through an improvised response about burning rage. The counselor seizes upon this, inquiring earnestly how much Barbara truly hates her mother. The savage imagery of the savage teeth of the tigress devouring her young and the fascist in pantyhose are dissected with psychoanalytic fervor. These lines, originally penned by Julie during a heated phase of rebellion involving Chuck, now become evidence of profound familial trauma in Miss Loring's eyes. The script's timing here is impeccable, with Barbara's flustered denials only fueling the counselor's conviction that she has uncovered a hidden poetic prodigy burdened by deep emotional wounds. This misunderstanding serves as a brilliant vehicle for exploring how art, especially teenage poetry, can be wildly misinterpreted when filtered through adult preconceptions. The historical context enriches this sequence profoundly. The 1970s witnessed a surge in popular psychology, with figures like Rod McQueen later referenced in the episode representing accessible emotional expression. School counselors like Miss Loring embodied the era's belief that personal creativity revealed authentic inner truths. One Day at a Time cleverly critiques this trend without cynicism, showing how such interpretations, while sometimes absurd, stem from genuine care. Miss Loring's dramatic declarations touching the hand of a true poet and lamenting her own meager scribbling add delightful theatricality. Her concern escalates to the point of planning a home visit to speak with Anne, prompting Barbara's desperate improvisation, claiming her mother is pregnant. This lie born of panic introduces the pregnancy motif that will later explode in the family confrontation. Barbara's quick thinking, citing her mother's age of 35 and being out of practice, showcases the resourceful survival instincts of a teenager backed into a corner while highlighting the communication strains common in single-parent homes of the period. Character insights in this part shine brightly. Barbara emerges as increasingly complex, a fundamentally honest girl whose one ethical lapse has snowballed into a web of deception. Her discomfort is palpable, yet she navigates the counselor's enthusiasm with a mix of flattery and evasion that elicits both sympathy and laughter. Miss Loring, far from a villain, is depicted as a dedicated educator whose overinterpretation stems from enthusiasm and a sincere desire to nurture talent. Her eccentricities, feeding cats named Emily and Erica, specific gourmet platters, her poetic rapture, humanize her, and provide ample comic fodder. Anne Romano's offstage presence continues to loom large, her strength and vulnerability as a single mother becoming the unintended focal point of Miss Loring's concern. The episode subtly comments on how single mothers in the 1970s were often scrutinized. Their parenting styles analyzed through the lens of emerging feminist and psychological discourses. The dialogue crackles with the show's signature rapid-fire wit. Miss Loring's lines blend professional jargon with genuine awe, while Barbara's responses oscillate between confusion and reluctant performance of the tormented poet role. When the counselor reads lines about the mother's swollen self-righteousness and Argus-eyed scrutiny, Barbara's feeble attempts to contextualize them only deepen the misunderstanding. This back and forth exemplifies expert comedic writing. Each clarification attempt by Barbara ironically reinforces Miss Loring's narrative. The script appreciates the performances required. Here the actor playing Barbara must convey mounting dread beneath a facade of artistic sensitivity, while Miss Loring requires a delicate balance of authority and endearing quirkiness. Thematically, this section delves into the pain of being misunderstood, a universal adolescent experience amplified by the era's social changes. Divorce, single motherhood and teenage rebellion were no longer fringe issues but central to American cultural conversation. By having Miss Loring project profound trauma onto Julie's old poems, the writers highlight how external interpretations can distort personal realities. Barbara's poetry crisis evolves from academic pressure into a commentary on authenticity versus performance. The genius label thrust upon her forces Barbara to embody a sensitive artistic persona for the remainder of the semester, adding another layer of ironic burden. This development resonates with 1970s youth culture, where self-expression through art was celebrated, yet often co-opted by adult expectations. As Miss Loring savors the poems and refuses to return Barbara's phone, the tension builds toward the inevitable home invasion. Her decision to visit the Romano household that evening, despite Barbara's protests, sets up the explosive family scene to follow. The counselor's concern that Barbara might be suicidal based on lines like "so deep the pain within me, sprung, perhaps I should die while young" injects a note of genuine drama beneath the comedy. In an era when teenage mental health was gaining visibility but still poorly understood, this moment carries subtle weight. The script handles it with characteristic warmth, using humor to explore serious territory without exploitation. Schneider's earlier advice about dreaming brilliant thoughts after eating pizza echoes ironically here. Instead of creative inspiration, Barbara's night has produced deception and impending exposure. The episode's seamless blending of the poetry plot with the emerging Melanie storyline demonstrates strong structural craftsmanship. By the conclusion of this office sequence, the audience is primed for the larger confrontation. Having been treated to a masterclass in dramatic irony and character-driven comedy, Miss Loring's misunderstanding functions as more than plot device. It becomes a mirror reflecting the complexities of family communication in single-parent households. Anne's hard-won independence and high standards for her daughters are misinterpreted as sources of trauma, a poignant commentary on how society often viewed non-traditional families through a lens of presumed dysfunction. The writer's appreciation for the 1970s cultural landscape is evident in their gentle satire of psychological overreach while celebrating the earnest desire to help that motivates characters like Miss Loring. This part of the episode solidifies One Day at a Time as a landmark series. It transforms a simple case of plagiarism into a rich exploration of perception, expectation, and the gap between public image and private reality. Barbara's journey through this misunderstanding deepens audience investment in her growth while laying groundwork for the heartfelt family resolutions that define the series' enduring appeal. The warmth, humor, and insightful observation on display here reaffirm why the show captured the hearts of viewers, navigating similar transitions in their own lives during a decade of profound social evolution. The stage is now masterfully prepared for the explosive intersection of Barbara's academic deception with the realities of her family life, promising even greater comedic and emotional payoffs in the scenes to come.